Hey everybody, it's Chris. Got a new interview for you today with Dr. Henning Salpa of the Arcadia Clinic in Germany. He is an integrative cancer doctor. He's got a brand new book out that's coming out in November, I think November 1st, and wanted to jump on with him, talk about the new book, catch up a little bit. I've interviewed him before. Some of you may remember him from an interview, I guess we did 2 or 3 years ago now, before the pandemic for sure. It might have been 2019. And anyway, so good to see you again.
Thank you, Chris. Good to see you.
So, what's been going on? What's been happening since the last time we chatted?
One of my big dreams came true, which was to publish a book about my work, holistic cancer medicine. And exactly a year ago, the German version of it, because I wrote it in my mother tongue in German, was published here in Germany. And very soon after, I got a contract with an American publisher, Chelsea Greens, who accepted my book to come out on the American market in just 4 weeks. And I'm excited to see the copy, the paper version of it in my hands after, I can say, more than 15 years of collecting data, looking through the current research around cancer, the standard approaches, but also the holistic and complementary approaches. And that together with my 25 years of clinical experience as a medical doctor is the result that can be read now in 4 weeks in this volume with around 300 pages, Holistic Cancer Medicine. So it's my summary of my life, my work as a cancer doctor so far.
I'm excited to read it. And by the time folks see this interview, the book will be out, right? So it won't be 4 weeks from now. It'll be out now for everybody watching. And
Yeah,
we'll link to the book in the video
in the
description, the
video.
show notes.
We'll
So,
put
and it's
this
called
out afterwards.
Holistic Cancer Medicine. That's the name of the book.
That's the name of the book, Holistic Cancer Medicine.
So let's
Integrative strategies for a new way to deal with cancer and for health and healing.
So let's talk about that. What is holistic cancer medicine? What's the
Holistic,
difference between that and what most conventional doctors are doing?
yeah. Well, the difference is quite big. What you get in a regular Western world oncology hospital is what I would call a reductionistic approach to cancer, which is also tumor focused. It focuses on the tumor or on the cells that make up a tumor, and it more or less neglects that there is a human body around that allows this tumor to grow and the biological terrain that allows this tumor to grow. So first thing we do in holistic complementary oncology is we don't look only at the tumor, we look at the entire organism that allows it to grow. We look at the terrain. So we have a terrain focused approach parallel to the tumor focused approach. And that makes a huge difference because that integrates what naturopathic medicine is about and was about for thousands of years, which is the balance of power in the human organism based on proper nutrition, proper sleep, stress reduction, purpose of life issues, nutritional issues in balance with detoxification, drinking the right amount of water and eating the good food instead of the bad food, and taking care of the organism that needs to metabolize the food and detoxify itself again when the food is digested. So all these terrain aspects that have been around since the beginning of medicine, thousands of years ago, is what we bring to oncology as a complement to the tumor-focused approach. This is the first message.
Well, and
And
everything you just described, all of these aspects, all of these factors in health and holistic medicine, all really go back to the patient, right? These are all things that the patient has to take responsibility for to change in their own life, right? These are not things that you can really do for them at a clinic. These are I mean, you can in a short, visit, but generally speaking, and correct me if I'm wrong, a big part of what you do is educating your patients on how to change their life once they leave your clinic, how to continue the healing process, right?
exactly, exactly. And this is what the true meaning of the word doctor is. It comes from Latin and means teacher. So doctors should be teachers, teachers in healthy lifestyle. And that is what got lost in modern times. Medical doctors became the blockers of the symptoms that we don't like instead of contributing to a healing reaction that lies within the human body. God gave us a healing capacity, and this healing capacity is blocked once you discover that cancer grows in your body. So you need to deblock the blocked healing capacity of your body. And that is what is inherent in every human being. So the teaching aspect is to show my patients a way to reactivate the healing capacity that lies within our body and take away the hindrances.
So here's a challenging question. Is your doctor teaching you anything?
Good question.
Right?
Right.
Is your doctor actually teaching you anything that will help you? Or are they just treating you with procedures and drugs? Right? And we all know the answer. 99% of patients are not getting taught anything by their doctor. They're getting told things, right? They're getting told this is how it is, and this is what you have to do, and this is what we're going to do to you, and these are your only options.
Right.
And that's how I was treated in the beginning of my cancer journey, and so it's so refreshing, to know that you're out there and that there's a growing resurgence, a growing movement of holistic and integrative medicine, not just in cancer.
Right.
And it was the past and it is the future.
True. Right. We need to connect the past with the tools of today and the future. And that's why we call it complementary medicine. We're not against surgery. We're not against modern drugs. They have their place in a multifaceted treatment approach, and some diseases can get much better by using a modern drug, like chronic myeloid leukemia is now manageable with one single drug, but that's an exception. All the other 500 cancerous diseases have not been able to treat with a single drug that makes such a huge difference as in chronic myeloid leukemia. So we need to look at the individual and find out what is the best treatment approach for this individual patient. And this is the second message of my book. Don't follow the guideline, one size fits all. Look for your best individualized treatment with a more individualized treatment protocol, and please with less toxic ammunition or less toxic drugs, because standard oncology is known to use the most toxic drugs that are given in medicine. And that is what I question. And my book offers an alternative approach to the super toxic full dose chemotherapy approach, which is still the number one guideline that the world follows. We see that there is a trend to less toxic protocols with so-called immune therapy, but immune therapy is not easy either. The immunotherapy drugs, and there are 70 drugs around since the last 15, 20 years, have substantial side effects and sometimes lethal side effects. So you have to be very, very careful to choose out the drug that fits you best. And you need to do a more individualized analysis and assessment to find out what does this individual patient need. And that's the second part of my book.
The empowerment component is so big. It's huge. And patients are not empowered by their doctors most of the time. They're disempowered, right? They're told there's nothing you did to contribute to your situation. There's nothing you can do to help yourself except for show up for treatment. And what you and I know to be true is that there's so many things a patient can do to increase their odds of survival.
Exactly.
To decrease their risk of ever getting cancer, to decrease their risk of a recurrence if they're in remission. There's so many things you can do. And it not in an overwhelming way, but it really just boils down to making very simple shifts to your daily routine, from what you're eating to the way you're thinking to maybe where you're working or your living situation, right? There's some big changes and small changes, to exercising, to choosing to think positively and instead of negatively, to choosing to forgive people who've hurt you. These are all things that that any person can do, right? That any person can do. And most of them don't cost anything, right? Granted, specialized treatments cost money, and supplements cost money, and special therapies cost money, but forgiveness and eating healthier and exercise really don't cost you anything. It's like, faith is free, fasting is free, so there's so many powerful therapies. And that's the thing. It's like the most powerful therapies in my mind are the ones that cost almost nothing and are the ones that most people don't want to do, right? And that's change their diet, and that's forgive and exercise and maybe do some fasting.
But that's where the teacher comes in, and many patients need somebody who guides them into these simple procedures that are simple if you understood them, if you have them, if you are experienced in forgiving, if you're experienced in eating a healthy diet, then it's simple. But for most people, it's not that simple to find the way. So that's another part of the book and the treatments we do here at Arcadia Clinic, is to help patients to find this way. And this takes, let's say, 3 weeks, 4 weeks of individual training, coaching, counseling. We reach out the tools to our patients about healthy lifestyle, healthy forgiveness, healthy diet, healthy exercising. And then they learn within a few weeks that, wow, it really works. It makes a difference. I wake up, I feel better. I have more power. I have more inspiration. And that is what patients take home. And as you said, that doesn't cost you a penny to continue with these good lifestyle changes. But you need to make it. You need to get inspired and then to grasp the ideas and to implement them in your life.
I think there's a stepwise progression of thought, which it starts with just believing that healing is possible.
Exactly.
Right. Everything starts there. You've got to believe that healing is possible. You got to believe that you can get well, right. And you have to want to get well. And if those two factors are in place in a person's mind and heart, then from there, it's just a matter of learning, right? Of educating yourself, reading and researching, reading your new book, reading my book, and then paying attention to so many of these wonderful survivor stories that are online. I've interviewed a lot of people, but there's even more out there, and paying attention to what people are doing to heal. And when you do that, not only does it increase your hope and your faith and your knowledge, right? Your conviction becomes so much stronger when you see that people have done this, right? It's like climbing Mount Everest, right? One guy did it, Edmund Hillary did it, and then other people said, "Well, if he did it, maybe I can do it
too." Right,
right. And that is. That's why I do what I do. That's why I interview survivors and doctors like yourself, because at the end of the day, I'm just trying to show anyone who needs hope, right? That needs help believing that healing is possible. I'm here to show them that it is, right? Right. And then from there, but then you got to take the reins and start making changes to your life and increase your knowledge and then implement, right?
Exactly. And sometimes you need to find the hindrances and the sabotaging thoughts in your subconscious that even if you say sometimes with your mouth, maybe there is healing for me, you don't believe it because there are sabotaging thoughts. So that's the psychotherapeutic counseling part of our work, to bring these sabotaging thoughts to awareness and to deal with them and to get them out of your mind field. And as you mentioned, forgiveness is a very, very important tool, but you need to teach people how to forgive, because just to say I forgive and your subconscious doesn't believe it is not enough. You need to really forgive down from the bottom of your heart, and that requires some practice and some counseling.
Yeah. Will you talk about that a little bit more, just about those defeating thoughts or self-sabotaging thoughts and the kind of things that you hear from patients and how you help them work through this? I know this is a very, very big topic, but just some smaller points.
Smaller teasers. Yeah. Well, I've been doing it for 25 years. It started with my training seminars that I did at Carl Simonton's workshops. Carl Simonton was one of the pioneers of psycho-oncology in the world. He was a Los Angeles radio oncologist and became world famous through his first book, Getting Well Again, published in 1978. So a pioneer book, a groundbreaking book that opened the field of psycho-oncology. And since that, since I met Carl 20 years ago, and I read his book already as a student in the 80s, I understood that there are several layers of our consciousness, and in deeper layers, many people block their health by believing that they're not lovable, they're not acceptable, they're not good enough, they should be punished. It's totally non-logical, but it's based on, let's say, childhood trauma, some beliefs that people put in their mind and that never get transformed because they never touch them. They put them into a closet and lock the closet and believe that these trauma did not exist, but they still affect their way of living their life and acting. So what we do in a way that I learned from Carl Simonton 20 years ago, and with other teachers like Colin Tipping, the Radical Forgiveness author of the book Radical Forgiveness, is to help the patient to feel the power of the unhealthy beliefs, to give them an opportunity to express the unhealthy beliefs that still block them. It's a technique described in these books. You need to study it, and then you can guide your patient into a mindset that allows the negative feelings to be expressed. And when they are expressed, you encourage the patient to accept it. And when the patient is ready to accept that all these negative beliefs still exist in his or her mind, then you find a way to transform them, because then you can show your patient that these negative beliefs affect their lives very, very negatively. And nobody is helped if they continue to believe negative things about their individual person, or their relationship to their family, or their relationship to God. So the change is only possible when you become aware of the negative beliefs, and that requires a special technique to help the patients to express it, to acknowledge it, to accept it. And once it's accepted, then you can transform it and exchange it into a healthy belief. And that's what we do for our patients. We write down the negative beliefs. We ask them, is this what you want to believe about yourself for the rest of your life? Is this based on truth? Is this in harmony with you and the universe? And in this therapeutic setup, patients can acknowledge, no, it's totally wrong. I should not be thinking this about myself. It's not true. It's not in harmony with God and myself. So now I feel ready that I can drop these negative beliefs and exchange them with new healthy beliefs. And what comes next is to practice the healthy beliefs. And there are, again, some special techniques how we encourage our patients, our clients, to practice the new beliefs by reading them loudly many times a day, by integrating them into their daily prayer if they are believers and pray, and to ask God for help to integrate these new and healthy beliefs in their hearts so that the negative beliefs vanish and lose their power. So that is, in very few words, what we do in this spectrum of mind-body healing or awareness medicine, where we work with unhealthy beliefs and transform them into true healthy beliefs that allows health and healing.
That's really good. And, when I was diagnosed with cancer, I didn't have great depth and insight from physicians like yourself, but I did realize, just from reading some books written by survivors and things, I did realize that I had to look in the mirror and admit my flaws and my fears and my failures, and really start examining how I thought, just listening to my own thoughts. And I was very insecure. I was judgmental. I was critical, just struggling with a lot of negativity, right? Negative thoughts and attitudes and beliefs. And so, yeah, I had to work on that, and nobody's perfect. I'm still working on it. Right. But, right. But I had some big breakthroughs in terms of just self-realization, realizing the kind of person that I had become just as a young adult, and realizing that I needed to change. Right.
Well, and you showed the world what is possible, right? You manifested the transformation of Unhealthy beliefs and obviously very healthy ones, and you manifested a transformation of a body that allowed to grow a colon cancer into a body that thrives and is full of vitality and does not allow the cancer cells to come back. So
yeah, and I couldn't, I didn't do it overnight. It was just a daily
hard work.
Daily practice, just catching myself the way I'm thinking and choosing to think differently, and really going deep in faith, and of course doing all the physical stuff, eating a plant-based diet, tons of fruits and vegetables, exercising, like doing the physical stuff. But that's only a one piece of the puzzle. And that real, what you mentioned earlier, and I'm so glad we went this way in our conversation, because when you're struggling with these negative beliefs, right? When you're holding on to anger and bitterness and resentment or envy and jealousy or insecurities, or feeling that you're not worthy or not lovable, like you said, that creates stress, right? It creates stress and anxiety and unhappiness. And as a human, you're going to find a way to self-medicate, right? To alleviate that distress. And we self-medicate in ways that are very unhealthy. And that's what leads to sickness, right? Smoking, drinking, overeating,
Exactly. Yes.
And so
all kinds of abuse. And with psychoneuroimmunology, which is an academic discipline fully accepted, represented in major universities around the world, we have the proof of this concept in our hands. Negative thoughts change our immune system into the negative direction. So negative feelings immediately have a measurable impact to our immune system. A laboratory biochemist can measure what happens if you meditate 1 hour or pray or sing spiritual songs, and how your immune system improves. And it can measure the opposite. If you feel miserable, if you feel full of guilt or shame or aggression, your immune system reacts accordingly. So we have all the reasons to implement that into oncology and into medicine in general.
Well, you and I haven't talked since the pandemic, but it does remind me, and I imagine we will probably agree on this, but one of the, when all of that first started, I sent an email to my audience and said, listen, you cannot adopt a spirit of fear, right? We have to be very careful about the fear mongering, because it was intense.
It was intense. It was like brainwashing.
It was definitely like brainwashing. And the problem with fear, right, is it suppresses your immune system. So whether or not the germ was a threat, which, we didn't really know in the very beginning, is it a threat or not, or whatever, like whether or not it was a threat or how big of a threat it was, to me, that was secondary to the fact that if it is a threat, you don't want to be immunocompromised, right? You need to take care of yourself mentally and physically, and so that you have, the strongest immune system possible. Exactly. Anyway, were you thinking the same things?
Exactly. I believe that we were exposed to a pandemic of fear, and that was what shook the world and what caused so much suffering and distress and economic and health consequences. So I believe the fear was at least as dangerous as the germ, if the germ ever existed.
Yeah, we can measure now the collateral damage. They're still measuring it, right? They're still trying to sort of get a sum total of the collateral damage caused by the fear-based response, right, to 2020. And it's, I mean, they may not ever get, have a complete handle on it, but we know, economic devastation, just all kinds of stuff around the world, not because of the germ, but because of the fear-based response to it.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. I said everything I could say, but my voice is only so big, and it wasn't enough to influence world leaders.
I can totally understand you. And who has the power to influence world leaders? But we need to inform our fellow men and start a grassroots revolution. It's we who are in charge to sharing our knowledge and our insights, so that more and more people get inspired and don't buy into the brainwashing program that we were exposed to the last 2.5 years.
I hope people are waking up. I mean, it's certainly a lot of people have woken up. It's encouraging to me to see so many physicians and doctors
Yeah,
who have banded together and said,
yeah,
we're not going to, we oppose drugs that are rushed to market out of fear and coercion and mandates and all these kind of things that we saw happen. And so I think that's the silver lining is there have been it's been a huge number of
yeah.
physicians and health care workers that have woken up to.
And more people are waking up and follow programs like your program and other health shows and health programs, and woke up the last 2 years. So that's what we got as the grain of gold in all the suffering and misery that we went through for 2.5 years. So I rely on my fellow men that follow our movement to take responsibility for one's own health and to build up a solid health based on healthy lifestyle, healthy living, spirituality, healthy diet. That's the future.
Yeah, if you think about world civilization, I mean, there have always been times of intense difficulty, right, throughout human history, and times where of fear. I mean, I think about World War II and Europe, and right, how much and the bombing, and right, all the fear happening there, and other conflicts around the world. And yeah, I think in some ways that has to happen in order for humans to get a reset, kind of get a hard reset. And eventually, I think what's happening, I hope is what's happening, is that people have just finally said, you know what? I'm not going to live in fear anymore, right? I'm just not going to live in fear anymore. I'm just going to live, right? I'm going to live my life, and I'm not going to be consumed by fear or hide in my home or whatever. Put on all this paraphernalia to protect myself. It's just, I think it's good. People just
Yeah.
eventually just realize like that living in fear is miserable.
Yes, it is. But I get inspiration from the Gospels, and there's a phrase that I always refer to my patients: be not in fear, I am. That's a word that Jesus said.
Yeah.
And this is the most powerful and shortest anti-fear meditation you can do. Be not in fear, be cheerful, I am. I am with you, or in the Greek original version, the word is only I am. A very, very powerful mantra.
Well, and the command, basically, do not be afraid, is in the Bible 365 plus
Yes.
times, right? I mean, over and over and over,
Over and
right?
over
God is
again.
saying,
So,
don't be
yeah,
afraid, right? Do not be afraid. He's telling us, don't be afraid,
be of
don't be
good
in
cheer.
fear. And there's a lot of good reasons not to be, which we've just talked about. So
Exactly.
it's really good advice.
It's good advice. So, on one hand, we need the vitamin D and the selenium and the healthy food. And on the other side, we need to have faith in our heart and to be cheerful and don't be in fear.
Well, and let's bring this back to cancer, because, you know, uh, and this is actually it all ties together. But in the beginning of the pandemic, probably March 2020, I also posted something on social media. I said something to the effect of like, now the world knows what it's like to have cancer, right?
Right.
To be struggling with fear every day.
Every day.
Because when you have cancer every single day, you can get distracted, but at some point you're going to remember that you have cancer and it could kill you. And then you have to deal with this wave of fear that has, overwhelmed your heart and your mind in that moment. And so, you know, um, how do you talk to patients about their cancer fears?
Well, I give them many opportunities when they are here at the clinic to talk with me and my colleagues. We have a cancer coach here who is a biologist and energy medicine expert, and we have us 3 doctors. So we give patients chances to speak about their fear. Number one, we make it hearable. Monsters grow in the dark. If you don't talk about your fear, fear grows. So you need to learn to address your fear and to distance yourself from the fact that there is fear in your mind. Step one, you need to acknowledge it, and you need to speak it out loudly, and you need to share that with somebody that you trust. Step one. Step
That's really
two,
good.
yeah. Step two is we make it a habit to say, hello, fear. What's on today? I know you very well. I've listened to your voice 100 times. Is there anything new that you can tell me today? Okay, you still tell me that I will die soon. Is there any, I've heard that 100 times. It gets a little boring. Is there anything new you want to tell me? So we encourage patients to have a conversation with their inner fear voice, and we give them a picture. Like some patients will pick a picture of, it's an old lady with a gray coat, and she has a wrinkled face, and she's really worried. So we give them an image. How does your fear look like? Or others will tell us, well, it's more like a barking little dog who comes always and disturbs me. So to give fear a voice and an image, so you can have an inner distance to your fear and have a conversation with fear. And eventually we teach the patients, or the patient finds ways under our guiding and counseling to manage to have a conversation with fear. And it's totally okay to have fear. Everybody has fear. There is a center in our brain that neuro scientists call the fear center. So God gave us a fear center. It's not bad that there is fear sometimes, but it needs to be in proportion. So what we teach our patients is, it's okay to have fear, but it must not run your life or dominate your life. You can become a trained fear manager and make fear a little messenger in your brain. Sometimes it's important to have fear. If there are dangerous things around, it's good to have a little bit of fear, to not be naive and run into every difficulty without any thoughts of protecting yourself, but it needs to become manageable. And there's a chapter in my book, Holistic Cancer Medicine, where I describe this technique to become acquainted with fear, to give it your voice, to describe it. And the more you do it, the less power fear gets over your life. So we make fear a manageable messenger that serves you, but does not disturb your life.
That's terrific advice. I love it. A couple of things that I would do is whenever I felt fear, I would acknowledge it right away. Like, okay, here we go. Like, I'm feeling afraid, right? What am I afraid of? Suffering, dying, what's going to happen to my family, those kind of things. And then I would just surrender it to God. I would just give it to God and say, okay, I trust you. Like, I'm giving you my fear. I'm going to choose to not be afraid. I'm going to give you my fear, and I trust you.
Yes.
And I mean, I did it over. I didn't just do it one time, right? I did it over and over and over. And then beyond that, I also realized that you can take that fear energy and use it to fuel your positive action, right?
Right.
Like, so let fear, and I say this in one of my books, is like, let fear motivate you to take positive action in your life, to stay the course, right? To keep juicing, to keep eating fruits and vegetables, to keep exercising, right? To keep making those changes. Like, let that fear turn that fear into something positive.
Utilize it in a positive way. Yeah? Like when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Make something juicy out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Salpa, I thank you so much for your time. This has been really fun, really deep, informative, insightful conversation with you. I'm excited about your new book, Holistic Cancer Medicine. And what is the subtitle?
The subtitle is Integrative Strategies for a New Approach to Health and Healing. That's the cover that I got from the publisher. So
you don't even have it in hand yet, but
no,
you will by the time this interview comes out.
I have the German version.
There we go.
Copy of the German version, but the American English translation will be out there for sale from November the 1st on Chelsea Green's website, and from November 15th on other bookstore websites.
Okay. Well,
Thank you, Chris.
We will link to the book below this video in the show notes and description and stuff, everybody. So you can click right through to get it. And I'm excited to read it. You're a brilliant physician. I'm so glad you're out there in the world and working with patients one on one. I'm so glad you got this book out, and congratulations, because I know how long it takes to write a book, especially when it's health and wellness and science involved. It's a very tedious process, and it takes
Right.
a long time to get it all together. And
Yeah.
so congrats to you. It's, for birthing this into the world. I know it's going to be great.
Thank you very much, Chris. And thank you for the work you do. You are an inspiration for many of my patients and for myself. So I wish you all the best for the continuation of your very, very important work.
Thank you so much. Okay, everybody, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next interview.